Tax reform passes the House and Senate on to Trump's desk and his pen. Obama administration gives Hezbollah a pass in hopes of securing the Iran nuclear deal. And Andrew McCabe testifies. All of this and more today on the Truth Hour. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to another jam-packed session of the Truth Hour. I'm Shane Jameson. Welcome on this beautiful Thursday morning, just a few days before Christmas. We have a lot to be thankful for and grateful for in this great country. So I appreciate everybody that will be attending today. If you would do me a favor and like us, subscribe to us, and share us with your friends and family so that we can increase our audience. This is the reason that I do this show, and I am grateful for your presence. So, days out of Christmas 2017, and the GOP has, underneath the Trump administration, has handed America an amazing, generational, huge Christmas gift. Tax reform has been passed the House and the Senate, and awaits literally one more step, President Trump's pen. It's believed to be all but signed. Huge, amazing accomplishment. First piece of legislation of this sort to be passed by the Trump administration against all of the Dems' wishes. They have basically kicked, screamed, and been drugged into the process only to vote 100% no on the plan. Not a single Democrat through this process, through the House and the Senate, voted yes on this bill. Absolutely an atrocity. Welcome, Lauren. See you on there. One of my weekly faithfuls here. I appreciate your attendance here this morning. So not a single Democrat voted yes for this tax bill. Boggles my mind. Anybody out there have family or friends or know of people that are just Scrooges that basically, if they're not the one that actually promotes whatever the gift is, or if they're not the one that actually is given the credit for whatever the benefit of something is, that they're bitter, they're sour, and they're disgruntled, and they just try to basically ruin the party for everybody. Does anybody have any family or friends like that? I'm sure we all do. The Dems are no different here. It's absolutely amazing to sit back and watch. They have called this tax plan, doomsday in the making. Nancy Pelosi, they've made it apocalyptic. They've made it sound like that it's only for the rich, that the middle class is getting shafted in this situation. That's all lies. The facts are that 80% of all Americans are going to have a tax break with this new tax reform, with the exception of some of the deepest blue liberal states in the country, such as California, New York, Massachusetts, to name a few. These states with their already liberal tax brackets and tax structure don't benefit from what Trump's passed here. And in my opinion, I'm not an expert in all of this, but they can't blame Trump for the fact that their state has policies already in place that counteract or contradict the current upcoming tax reform. That's not Trump's fault. That's not his responsibility. And what needs to be touted here is that 80% of all Americans are going to have a tax break. And probably the biggest upfront and foremost thing that everybody on the left basically demonizes is the corporate tax break. I think we're going from 35 to 21. As we currently sit, and before that we sign this bill, before this bill is signed in by Trump, the United States is, I think, with the exception of maybe one or two other countries, I think we're the highest taxed country in the world. We're the highest taxed country in the world. It's pretty simple economics. If we're not competitive and we tax our corporations to this extent, I think the last 8, 10, 12 years, even back into the Bush administration, probably reflects the fact that if you have an incredibly poor tax status for your corporations, they're going to go somewhere else and be competitive somewhere else. And they're going to take a lot of that money with them and the jobs. It's economic cancer to tax our corporations as high as we've taxed our corporations for years. So Trump comes in, drops that from 35 to 21. In the very instance that he's out there having this victory lap with him and all the senators that helped pass that, I think AT&T jumped in there, has already committed. I believe it was AT&T. FedEx has jumped out and done some stuff. People are already, guys. If the stock market hadn't already been an indicator of just the good vibe and the good feeling behind what Trump has been standing for, even before this had actually passed the House and the Senate, even before ink has hit the paper from the president to actually officially sign this in, you don't need any more proof than the fact that huge Fortune 500 companies are coming forward before ink even hits the paper and stating they're giving massive bonuses to their working class. AT&T comes out, states they're going to give $1,000 bonuses instantly to just their everyday workers, not some higher up exec. I mean, I'm sure they're going to get bonuses too, but what company does that? Right? What company actually does that? Well, AT&T stepped up, put their money where their mouth is. I think FedEx is doing some stuff. Guys, this is really simple. When you take a you take a company's tax bracket and you drop it like that, it's simple economics. I mean, it's going to incentivize growth. It's going to incentivize hiring. It's going to put more people to work. It's going to create more jobs. It's going to create more money, more prosperity. The free market capitalist enterprise that is the United States economic engine is all but set to take off. I've been saying this for weeks. I've been saying this for months. And ever since Donald J. Trump took the oath of office, I've been stating that the American economy under the Obama administration had been succeeding in spite of Obama. He stifled the coal industry. He stifled free market. I mean, he overregulated, over-legislated, over-regulated, executive orders against the capitalist system as we know it. He put a ton of people in the energy sector out of work. I, for one, am in the energy sector. I've been in oil and gas for the better part of 10 years. I know I've heard of a lot, that's a cyclical energy industry, but, like the coal industry. I mean, he decimated that through his regulations and policies, basically made it unprofitable. I think the coal industry is roaring back. It's amazing, guys. It's an amazing new day. And welcome to my daughter, Cheyenne, way out in El Paso, Texas. So, like we're saying, I mean, it's just an amazing day, and I wanted to headline the show with some great news. And that is the great news. Guys, everybody starting in January is going to have more money in their paychecks. When you file your taxes this time next year, or beginning of the next year, when it's tax season a year plus, a lot of people are going to be able to, like they stated, going to be able to actually reduce and minimize the ridiculousness that is filing your taxes for the everyday American. And, Trump had come out basically touting, oh my gosh, the tax plan on a postcard, and everybody bought into that, and it was awesome. Unfortunately, it's not going to be like that for everybody, but there are going to be a significant portion of Americans that are actually going to have the ability to have all of this nonsense reduced to a certain point that it is the equivalent of basically doing your taxes on a postcard. It's amazing. And it's just it's hilarious to sit back and watch the left squirm and wiggle. I mean, they have now what they've done. They are so far gone that they are now stating that just like the Democrats and the Obama administration had to own Obamacare like a millstone around their neck, which that's been proven to be the case. They're trying to say that now the GOP is going to own this tax reform bill and this tax reform plan, and that somehow it's going to be doom and gloom in 2018, the midterms, and it's going to come back and be a reformation against Trump in 2020. I couldn't disagree more. The very people that are trashing this tax plan, trashing this current administration, are some of the very people whose paychecks are fixing to go up, whose taxes are fixing to go down, and are invested in a stock market that is feeding on rocket fuel right now and has no signs of slowing down. It's hypocrisy in the highest order, and they don't have anything else to go on, so now they're saying that, I mean, let's unpack that. How can that even be the case? Obamacare was a government-forced program to force you to purchase said product. And if you did not choose to purchase by force said product, you were then assessed a penalty for not purchasing said product. That is not the America I grew up in. That is not the America I know and believe in. And that is not free market capitalism. That is dictatorial. That is socialist. That is redistribution. And there's no way that the Democrats can sit there and say that it's one and the same with Obamacare. Obamacare was forcing something on a free people. Taking, in this tax plan, is taking back from an overextended government and giving what was rightfully the people's to begin with. And we could even go as far as this. You know, why are we so excited? Why are we so happy? We're going to have more money in our banks. That's great. I don't know about you, but you ever file your taxes, right? And you ever get that, you get a return. And you're always like, most people are like, oh my gosh, you know, I can't wait till I get my tax return. Can't wait till I get that money back. 300, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, whatever your tax status is. You know, it took me a number of years to really step back and look at the reality of that. That's your money to begin with. So we all get excited, we get giddy whenever the IRS, when the government sends us something back that was rightfully ours to begin with because they held it for no reason. There's something wrong with that. We're brainwashed into being excited when we're given back something that the government never should have taken from us to begin with. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not against all tax. I'm just simply against overtaxation. You know, y'all have heard that way back, right? Overtaxation, taxation without representation. That was, way back in our history. There was a time and a place for that. Well, guys, I mean, it's really simple. I mean, the government has been taking, and in a lot of ways, this bill isn't perfect. There could have been a lot more, there could have been a lot more given back to the everyday American through even bigger tax reduction. I mean, I'm all about that. But what they've done is they've opened the door for that to happen. Some of these deductions, some of these tax rates that have been proposed and fixed to be signed in, they will sunset, I believe, in 2026. That's, I don't like that either. But here's what they've done. They've set this up to succeed and put on future administrations, hopefully, will sign these in permanently. That would be great. I mean, why sunset something that needs to be permanent? But here's the thought. I mean, you don't want to sign something in permanent that could actually be improved upon. So the rates could even be further lowered. I think Trump come out in this tax process, he actually wanted to have from 35 to 15. And they compromised with 21. There's a lot, once again, I'm not an economic expert here, and I don't know all the bells and whistles and the ins and outs, but I mean, it's going to be phenomenal. I mean, guys, I've always said this. Nobody in this country has ever been hired by a poor person or a company that's not getting by. Companies make money for a reason. They're making money. They're in a position to make money. They have more money than the people that are underneath them. There's nothing wrong with that. The left's always demonized success. The left has always demonized capitalism. The left has always demonized individualism. Companies make money, and when they're profitable, the average American in this country is profitable, and that is what makes us, on top of our Constitution, our Judeo-Christian values, and our morals and ethics makes this country exceptional. And don't let anybody else tell you differently. So, I'll see Cheyenne and Lauren kind of jumping in here. Take a couple of these comments here. Yeah, I've kind of skipped through some of this here. Is Obamacare still in play? Lauren says the individual mandate's been repealed. There's a misconception there. Trump actually was misinformed yesterday when he was doing his victory lap and stated that that since the individual mandate was repealed, that somehow Obamacare is basically all but done for, and that's not the reality. The reality is the individual mandate, which dictates that the government can tell you what to buy and how to buy it out of a select few and small number of options, or you're penalized. That is gone. And that's huge. But that's not the entirety of Obamacare. Those tentacles are still alive and well. And the Dems are great at, basically, they created such a mess with Obamacare that then they do put a millstone around the GOP and the Republicans to try to fix it. And if they try to fix it, you almost create more conflict and more problems. So then a lot of people look at it, well, let's just leave it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the reality is Obamacare was broke, is finished, and it does need to be fixed. But it's kind of like live to fight another day. So they repealed the individual mandate. That's going to be awesome. So they're going to come in and have to, in my opinion, that's a stepping stone towards fully repealing Obamacare. So, let's cross that bridge somewhere down the line. The point is, guys, they didn't repeal Obamacare when that first came up. There's some other failures that have happened that the Democrats have dragged their feet and a lot of the Republicans dragged their feet. But let's make one thing clear about this tax reform. The GOP finally consolidated, they unified, and they came together for this country and fulfilled the promises that were campaigned on by Donald J. Trump and them individually to their constituents to give a huge tax break back to the American people. And that has happened. Literally, the only thing standing between that and 100% confirmation of that is nothing but some ink and a pen going to a piece of paper between Donald J. Trump and the bill. So it's done. Now the question is when they're going to sign it in. Well, and a lot of people yesterday was like, we wish we do it sooner rather than later. Absolutely. I mean, you're going to pass something like that. You don't want the sun to set without having that bad boy signed in. I mean, I don't blame you. But, so they're thinking about maybe having a really, really big, extravagant signing party. I mean, a situation where, you maybe do that in front of some families that are hardworking middle-class families that can show the benefit of this amazing tax reform to really punch through that and show off that, amazing, the dramatic side of what this really means to the average, everyday working family. There's talks about, he might even be in Florida. President Trump might be in Florida over the holidays and sign it. There's no telling. But there's also there's probably one thing guaranteed, that he's going to sign that before the first of the year. There's some things that happen there at the first of the year that kind of, they just, it might dilute it, or I don't think, it's definitely not hindered. It's done. I mean, nothing could happen at this point. It's passed. All it needs is ink. So amazing, guys. So, I sit and watch that happen. I watched that unfold yesterday, and I could not be prouder at this point right now than I am right now of this administration, the hard work, in spite of the Democrats' efforts to demoralize, belittle, and demean the process. They stood fast, they stood strong, they stood unified, and they pulled out what is going to be one of the most amazing historical things in this country that we'll look back on. It'll be in history books, because Reagan did an amazing tax reform in his own right. I'm a big Reagan fan. But this one rivals that in a lot of ways. And I don't have all the the expert advice here, but I just know it rivals, and it actually, pardon the pun, it trumps even Reagan's tax breaks because of just the state of affairs today versus the state of affairs then, right? So anyways, and Lauren, great point there. He states, I don't consider Trump a politician. Well, he's not. He's an outsider. He came in, and that was his forte, and he came in, and he ran on that. And I think it was pretty simple. Everybody was tired of the Obama administration and the everything running as normal, and he came in and ran basically as an outsider coming in for the American people. And the benefit of that is he's not owned by any of the parties in particular. He's not owned. He's not owed anything to special interest. He came in of his own accord, and there's a lot to entice people with that because there's no strings attached. There's no strings attached to somebody that comes from the outside. He's not an establishment person. He's not an establishment politician. And guys, I mean, if I could have looked if I was doing this show a year ago, and I wasn't, it's only been a few months, but if I'd looked back to Inauguration Day and been like, all right, man, Dow's going to be up 30-40%. Tax reform is going to be signed inside of a year. We're going to repeal the individual mandate on Obamacare. I can't even number. I need to get a bullet point list of all of the successes of Donald J. Trump up to date. But you name them all. Blah blah blah. I don't think I could sit here and look at even as optimistic as I was about Trump. I don't think anybody could have even imagined how much success this president's had. And like I said, to the detriment of the Dems, right? They don't want to buy into this at all. And it's funny because they've hated him from the start. They had to basically buy in and sell everything out. And basically, I mean, I'm sorry, going into midterms, guys, in 2018, some of these Democrats in these certain states, how are they going to look their constituents in the eye and say they didn't back tax reform? Let me tell you something that crosses party aisles. Money in people's pockets. That crosses political aisles. There is no defining border between that. I don't care if you're a Democrat, a socialist, a Republican, an independent, a Bernie lover, a Hillary lover. If you loved Obama, if you loved Trump, if you like John Kasich, if you like Cruz, I don't care who you liked before Trump was elected. The fact is, if you see more money in your paycheck because somebody passed tax reform, you're probably finding it kind of hard to hate on the guy. How can you hate on somebody that just gave you more money back from a government that was oversized, overreaching, overpowered? This administration is draining the swamp by the day. This administration is cutting the legs off of many of the tentacles of this government that are far-reaching, that weren't constitutionally originally put in to be for the people. This outreach has went on too long, and Trump is doing something about it. So, amazing. Outside of that, I mean, we spent about 20, 25 minutes on that. I could talk the whole hour about the positive of that, but I'm going to pivot on to what the bread and butter of the show has been for a number of weeks, guys. It's more truth coming out about the FBI. Andrew McCabe testified yesterday, day before, in a closed-door session. I don't agree with that. I believe he should have been open door, should have been public. Either way, he was forced to come in and testify. I believe I've heard that there's more subpoenas coming down the wire here. There's going to be more people brought in under subpoena, and they're probably going to squirm, and they're probably going to, squeal, and they're probably going to plead the fifth, and they're probably going to come up with a talking point similar to this. Well, I'd love to discuss that with you, but this isn't the proper setting. Those type of comments that have been pulled in the past, but it doesn't matter. The truth train is coming down the tracks, and there isn't anything going to stop it. Like I stated, Andrew McCabe is front and center in this now. Let's backtrack 1 week, guys. We got a picture up there of Andrew Strzok. Once again, huge conflict of interest. This is under the Mueller investigation, under Mueller's umbrella. Strzok goes in. There's been a huge cache of texts that have been released. We've already discussed this last week, but the short of it is between him and Lisa Page, FBI attorney, believed to be one of his mistresses at the time. One specific text comes to mind. I don't have it available to put up, but it is the text referencing a meeting of him and Lisa Page inside of none other than Andrew McCabe's office, stating and negotiating about an insurance policy in case and if the inevitable happens that Donald J. Trump won the office. Unbelievable, unprecedented. FBI prosecutors that are supposed to be above reproach. FBI prosecutors supposed to be above bias. Not to say that you can't have a political opinion, but those are subject and underneath your duties as an FBI agent assigned to an investigation to be non-partial, non-biased. Everything but that's happened. Strzok and Page inside of Andy McCabe's office discussing an insurance policy in case the inevitable happens. Begs the question, what's the insurance policy? Well, funny you say that. Funny you even ask that. Could it be the dossier? I believe it is the dossier. Funded by the DNC, paid for by the Clintons. FBI, I think, will be discovered to have paid Christopher Steele, the MI6 agent that was out there digging up stuff and had connections in Russia that pulled all of this together. It's then put in front of Stork. It's then dressed up into an official-looking FBI document. I think time will tell and facts will prove that that was then presented to the FISA courts. Warrants were issued, and an investigation based on lies, based on nothing more than opposition research, was instituted. I believe time and facts will prove that Andrew McCabe's signature will be on certain documents that will say that he initiated and gave authority to initiate the Trump-Russia collusion investigation that has been a joke. And new revelations also that possibly even Mueller, during the transition, went to the GSA and obtained thousands of emails, of which a significant portion of those were attorney-client privileged. Okay? This is in the transition. No subpoena, no warrant. Mueller walks in, basically takes these. These were not government property. Why? Because Trump isn't a government official. Trump never was a government official. Trump was an independent outsider coming into the government. They had no right to the documents. They had no right to the information, and yet they took them. And what's being stated now and being floated around is that if these documents, these emails, and these attorney-client privilege information that the GSA turned over to Mueller, if that was obtained illegally and then subsequently is used by Mueller's team to then, let's go back. How was, you want to know how Flynn was, you don't want to know how Flynn pled guilty to lying and misleading statements to the FBI? He was entrapped. They already had all the phone conversations and recordings of his discussions with Kislyak, a Russian ambassador. It was common knowledge, except Flynn didn't know they already had them. Here's what the FBI does. They obtain information that you don't know they already have, and then they request to interview. Well, they request to interview Flynn. He doesn't know he's under oath. He didn't know it's official, and he didn't know he was going to have transcripts of it and official copies and videoed. He shows up to his own detriment without an attorney, answers some questions in passing, for whatever reason lies to the FBI about meetings with Kislyak, which were legal. It's a transition team, guys. We say this every week. For some reason, misled the FBI, and he's now pleading. He's pled guilty to that. But here's the fact. They didn't tell him that they had the information. If any of these documents Mueller obtained through the GSA were done so in an illegal manner, no subpoena, no warrant, if it comes to find out that they have no legal loophole to get out of this, if any of those documents were used as foreknowledge before they interviewed Flynn, you have what they call the theory of the fruit of the poisonous tree. I've always been saying this, guys. If the genesis or the core of this investigation is built on misleading, false lies, opposition research that was then obtained unwarranted, no subpoena, illegally, How can you have an official investigation with any validity? How can you have an investigation with any kind of stickability? How can any of this actually stick? Everything after the fact should be irrelevant. This should all be considered dirty. It should all be considered irrelevant. And Flynn's guilty plea and Manafort's guilty plea and Papadopoulos' guilty plea and whoever else Mueller thinks he's going to try to get the plea for to try to get something on Trump, I'm telling you, it's all dirty. It should be irrelevant. It shouldn't count. I mean, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I just think that the fix was in. I think the more that this comes out, and there's more people being subpoenaed. Bruce Ohr, his wife Ellie. Let's unpack that really quick, guys. Bruce Ohr was another one of the agents. He was higher up there with Stork. Okay, he was here's what's crazy. He was meeting with Fusion GPS owners. Right? He was meeting with Fusion GPS owners, of which his wife was on the payroll of. And Fusion GPS is what? The company that helped put together the dossier, paid Christopher Steele in part by the DNC, in part by the FBI, that all has fingers and ties to Russian agents and Russian individuals that were putting all this together, right? So Bruce Ohr and his wife, in conjunction with Stork, Lisa Page, Andrew McCabe, with text messages that clearly state that there was an organized and intentional set of plans initiated as an insurance policy to derail an incoming president. Are you kidding me? Guys, if you can mentally put that picture together, everybody that's watching this and anybody that hears this should be scared of your government right now. You basically have the FBI going to bat for one party, in collusion with one party, against another party's candidate to offset, derail, or undermine that person if they are, in fact, elected. And that's exactly what happened. The insurance policy that was talked about is exactly what that is. It's the dossier. It's the FISA courts. It's all of the bad players that paid for it, funded it, brought it to fruition. The whole thing stinks. The whole thing is slimy. It can't be valid. It can't be used. Now there's people talking about, well, should Mueller be, fired? Should Trump do that? I don't think so, and I've listened to a lot of sides of that. I don't think he should be fired. For one reason. It's like the longer he's in there and he's the special prosecutor assigned, the more we find out, and the better this is. So why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yes, this is broken. It never should be underway. But it's almost like the longer all of this falsehood and all of this fake junk is out there as some kind of, and it's being presented as fact against Trump and anybody else that could be tied to the administration as it shows maybe anything to do with Russia, the longer all of this is out there, the more truth is shown against the Democrats and against their clearly intentional efforts to undermine Trump. And it's paying dividends. The very thing that they thought was going to sink this administration, hamstring him before he even got in, get him impeached day one, is the very thing that is uncovering all of this bias, all of this corruption, and is basically undoing the Democratic Party that we once knew. As we speak, this is not the Democratic Party of my mom and dad. This is not the Democratic Party of, their mom and dad of a generation or two back. I'm telling you guys, the Democratic Party of today, the far left, it is I wouldn't even call it a shell of its former self. It's not. It doesn't even have any relevance anymore. It's a obstructionist party. They don't. The Democrats don't show any kind of validity for, they don't have a message. They don't have a mission. They're not fight. You know the difference between good and evil, guys? When people fight again, there's a difference. The right in this country, the GOP in this country, I'm not saying there's bad in both parties, but right now, I'm going to tell you why the GOP is winning and why things are moving forward and the truth is succeeding, because certain people are fighting for something, fighting for the truth, fighting for what's right, fighting for justice. And the far left and the Dems are fighting against. They're obstructing. and they have nothing to run on. They have nothing to show for their efforts. I mean, not a single Democrat voted to put a single dime back in your pocket. Not a single one. I can't even understand that. I can't even understand that. So we're going to pivot over here to, I'm going to pivot over to another. I mean, it's crazy. And the more that we go outside, we're not even a full year outside of Obama yet, guys. And we keep uncovering huge, huge things that the damage that this man did to this country is yet to be fully told. And here's another big one. It just now broke 2 or 3 days ago. Supposedly the Obama administration, in hopes of sweetening and smoothing the pathway to what would become the Iran nuclear deal, gave a huge pass to Hezbollah as far as the drug trade goes. And you might be saying, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, it's starting to be uncovered that apparently what's happened is that DEA and other, factions of the intelligence agencies that go to bat, globally against these various things, Hamas or Hezbollah, terrorist organizations, drug trafficking, those types of things. There was a huge, and I forgot the name of the investigation, or the name of what was, I think it was called Cassandra. Operation Cassandra was the name of it. They were kicking Hezbollah's butt. Hezbollah was trafficking, they've been a big trafficker of drugs around the world. Apparently what's being stated is that they were also working heavily with one or many of the Mexican drug cartels to smuggle tons of cocaine into this country, probably a lot of other drugs as well, but mainly cocaine is cited in this report. So what the Obama administration was doing is DEA was kicking butt and taking names. They were following through. They were diligent. They had a heck of a case. They were making arrests. They were disrupting this drug trade. Just one problem. About the time all of that was happening, Obama and his cohorts were paving the way to try to make sure that the Iran nuclear deal was going to go through with no hitch. And what's being reported and what's being stated by a lot of insiders into this is that they were basically told to step down. They were told to turn a blind eye, and that all of their hard work on trying to disrupt and blow up this, basically, dismantle this drug trade from Hezbollah into the United States through Mexican drug cartels was handicapped and eliminated. They were basically, they had their teeth pulled out. They had no more bite. The DEA was basically, this investigation, this Operation Cassandra was all but dismantled. And it happened to coincide with the same time that they were trying to push the Iran nuclear deal. I just find it, and we got a video I'm going to show here in just a minute, but I find it horrific. So think about this. So, and then the Dems are coming out saying, "Oh, it's the greater good theory." What do you mean the greater good? So you call it a greater good to turn a blind eye to tons of cocaines that kill people that kill hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans every year? You call that greater good? So let's turn a blind eye to what you consider, and who made the Obama administration the judge? Who made them the overseer of what's actually, the greater good? So you mean to tell me the Obama administration turned a blind eye to tons of cocaine coming into this country through our southern border and other aspects, through drug cartels that just want to make money, sell poison to our kids and many other people that kill us every day? He turns a blind eye to that so that he can then, what the greater good was the Iran nuclear deal? It was the greatest disaster of ever. It just kicked the can down the road. It just kicks the can down the road for them to be a nuclear power. They chant every day in their parliament. They want to exterminate the Jews. They want to annihilate Israel. Death to America. Oh, is that the greater good? If this is proven to be true, this is unbelievable that this man, Obama, would basically go light on one terrorist organization to kiss up to another. Iran's the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Let's watch this video.
So, David, 60,000 people died last year of drug ODs. I think we're sort of beyond the point where we can pretend that there's not a massive historic drug crisis going on in America, and yet the Obama administration, as that crisis was ramping up, in effect allowed tons of narcotics to come into the country knowingly. That seems jaw-dropping to me.
Well, this is really a story about terrorism and about our Iran policy. We can agree on a couple things. First of all, that Hezbollah does support terrorism, that Hezbollah is an arm of Iran, and it carries out Iran's anti-American, anti-Western agenda. So we should be using law enforcement to confront Hezbollah, and we have been doing that. This story suggests, however, that the Obama administration pulled back on a major law enforcement investigation in order to support the Iran deal. That is troubling if true. However, this story is thinly supported, and Eli Lake noted some of the ways in which it's thinly supported. It's basically based on two former DA agents who have an agenda. I have a contact. He just left the Treasury Department last summer. He says that this is a disgusting hit job by a cabal of people with an agenda. Okay, so there are two sides to this story.
Well, that's not a side, actually. That's an ad hominem attack on the reporting without offering countervailing evidence. Let me stipulate that all stories in Washington come with an agenda, explicit or not. So, of course, there are agendas.
Well, this comes from
But is he saying that it's untrue, that the Obama people knew that Hezbollah was partnering with the Mexican drug cartel to import cocaine by the ton into the United States and launder terror money? They did know that, correct?
If you look at his tweets, he is saying it's not true. The interagency process, which involves the intelligence community, State Department, Treasury, folks like him who were on the sanctions policy group, were monitoring this very closely, and they did not agree that the Obama administration suddenly changed its policy. Now, if the Obama administration did, that is problematic. But the problem is this 50-page plus story with lots of details is really just based on the testimony of just two people, and that's problematic. So it needs further investigation before you indict the entire Obama administration.
I don't know that that's true, and I'm not indicting the entire Obama administration. The show is not long enough to do that. I'd enjoy it. I'm merely saying that this piece purportedly is based on interviews with dozens of people, it says, directly involved in this. There's an on-the-record piece of written testimony before Congress from an Obama Treasury official saying that a specific DEA operation, Cassandra, meant to interdict cocaine shipments here, was stymied.
All right, guys. Good video there on Tucker Carlson. Big fan of Tucker. Recommend anybody here listening to watch him. Very informative. He's a straight shooter, man, and he goes after people. Puts them on the point to tell the truth. Great piece there. Unbelievable, guys, right? But Obama's got, if you go back, guys, Obama has a track record of appeasement, especially as it pertained to the Iran nuclear deal. I believe, and as I sit and kind of pondered some of this and going back in history through his 8 years, I think there's a lot of things tied to what he inevitably did with Iran. Pulling out of Iraq the way he did, right? Of course Iran would want Americans' influence and Americans' military out of Iraq. He did that. He basically all but announced a deadline and a date of withdrawal. Huge mistake militarily. You want to give your enemies basically the deadline for the day you're going to pull the last boots out of a country? Well, that's what Obama did. Okay, what other ways did we appease Iran? So now it's basically come to knowledge that we went light on one of the biggest terrorist organizations in the world, Hezbollah, for the funneling of tons of poison into our countries, of which then the kickback, the money went back and was laundered back into Hezbollah. So they got to poison our country, take the money from Americans that bought that junk, and then they go back to fund a terrorist organization, all under Obama's watch. Also, he could get a greater, worst atrocity in the Iran nuclear deal. Could it get any worse? How about pallets of cash sent back as ransom payments? They'll refute that until the day they die. That was a ransom payment. There was pallets of greenbacks that went to Iran. They flew them in with C-130s, and gave Iran millions, if not billions of dollars. We lifted billions of dollars in sanctions. And here's another one. You want to know why there was red lines placed over in Syria whenever Assad was gassing people and that whole civil war started years back? There was a red line because Obama didn't want to look too weak. He'd come out and give a red line. Anybody ever wonder or consider why he never actually enforced that red line? Never. He went soft on Syria as well to appease Iran. He wanted to minimize America's footprint in the Middle East so that it would look better to the Ayatollahs and to the higher-ups of Iran, to better foster and massage a relationship with Iran, to sign the worst deal in American history and the world's history in the Iran nuclear deal. I guarantee you that's exactly what he did. I mean, it's like almost every other day. I think he can't stoop to something even lower. He couldn't sell this country out even more. He couldn't apologize any further. And then we find out these things. I think it's an absolute atrocity, and I can't wait for it. And this is under investigation. I mean, unbelievable. It's like they come out of the gate and they're like, oh, yeah, it's all this Trump stuff, and Trump did this and that. Isn't it funny, though, how the days and hours and minutes tick by, that the more that's coming out is all the cesspool of corruption and lies and deception done right up underneath the American people's noses at the expense of the American taxpayer, and it's coming to light as we speak. I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome. I think Trump's exactly where he's supposed to be because he's supposed to be there for this very reason. I think it's amazing. So, I don't know anything else on some of those things, guys. I do have, I've got Joe. Before we pivot here, I was going to spend the last few minutes, guys, here after we do this next video. We're going to our closing segment's going to be basically, I'm going to do it next week as well, things to be thankful and grateful for. We're going to discuss some things like that. But first, Joe Dignova, he is, honestly, I should have done more research on him. I've listened to him countless times on Tucker and various other organizations. He's, I think, a former prosecutor of sorts. He's got a great piece here interviewing with Tucker Carlson on how corrupt the FBI is and exactly what he believes that the dots were connected, the fix was in to frame the incoming president, Donald J. Trump. Let's take a listen.
To this investigation, you obviously have conducted investigations. When you did you ever stack them with prosecutors who were personally hostile to the person being investigated?
No, and let me just say this right now, Tucker. What you have now unfolding inside the FBI and the Department of Justice under Obama is a brazen plot to do two things: to exonerate Hillary Clinton because of an animus toward Donald Trump, and then if she lost, to frame the incoming president for either a criminal act or impeachment. This is one of the most disgusting performances by the senior officials at the FBI and the Department of Justice, and it demands that every one of these agents involved be fired, and that the people who are still in the Justice Department be fired, including Mr. Orr, and that they impanel a federal grand jury to investigate the conduct of McCabe and Strzok and Page and Comey and Orr and everybody in the Obama Justice Department who even touched this, because it's very clear that they conspired to frame the incoming president of the United States. And it's a frightening and disgusting prospect that FBI officials, senior FBI officials, would do this. And those text messages are frightening. They're just frightening.
The Trump administration oversees the Department of Justice now. What would it take to call some of these people to account for their behavior, at least to get to the bottom of it? Mr. Orr, for example, who met with people from Fusion GPS and didn't tell his superiors about it. His wife worked there. He didn't tell them about that either. Why is he still there?
Well, that's a good question. An been demoted. He lost his Associate Deputy Attorney General slot 4 doors down from Mr. Rosenstein. He's now back in his old job as the head of an organized crime drug task force. I do not understand how he can continue to stay in the department. In all likelihood, he's being investigated by the Inspector General as part of that larger investigation into what the Justice Department did with Comey and others to basically throw the case against Clinton. A bunch of dirty cops got together and decided to throw a case against the Democratic presidential nominee. I don't think Mr. Orr is going to be around the department very long because he can't function ethically in those constraints.
So just finally, just some perspective for those of us who haven't conducted these investigations. We know that then Director Comey had written the speech he subsequently gave in July of 2016, 2 months before, in which he exonerated Hillary Clinton,
right,
before which he'd even interviewed her or a dozen of her top aides. Is that unusual to come to a conclusion like that, she's innocent, before even interviewing her? That seems odd.
It is not only extremely unusual, it's never happened before. James Comey threw the case against Hillary Clinton in conjunction with senior FBI officials and Justice Department officials in the Obama administration at the time. It's never done. Comey sold his soul to the devil. Believe me, you cannot believe the telephone calls we're getting from current FBI people about how they cannot abide by what's going on. And one thing they can't understand is, why is Andrew McCabe still at Christopher Wray's right hand inside the senior offices of the FBI? I mean, McCabe and Strzok and Page are all out of the same cloth. They conspired to exonerate improperly and politically Hillary Clinton, and also, if she lost, to frame the incoming president of the United States with a false crime. This is a constitutional crisis, and Congress better stay on it until they get all the answers, and then there needs to be a grand jury.
Washington, where no one is ever fired. That should be the sign as you drive in. Joe, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So there you hear another Tucker Carlson interview. That gentleman's take was on point. Absolutely, it's a sad thing, but it's a sad day, but it's also a great day. There's always a way to make lemonade out of lemons. The lemons being the corruption of the past, the lemonade being the truth that's been shown, the revelations that are coming out every day. It's just awesome, guys. It's awesome. It's a blessing for truth to be able to have a platform once again in this great country. If we can't have truth in this country, we can't have a country. There's only so long you can play that game. Yeah. So, guys, stay tuned for some more revelations as the days and the weeks unfold. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. As far as, the further you push the far left into a corner and start trying to shine the light of truth, demand the truth from certain individuals, the harder they're going to fight, the harder they're going to kick and scream, and the worse it's going to get. But so be it. And I've got a saying, if the principle dictates the fight, then the outcome is irrelevant. You fight the fight for the fact of principle. You don't fight the fight. You don't engage to fight for the principle for some kind of predisposed outcome. The outcome's irrelevant. You fight for what's right because it's what's right. All right, guys, we're going to close out this session for the last 4 to 6 minutes here. I just wanted to do, this is the last show before Christmas. We'll have one more show next week before the New Year's. Guys, you want to chat me on here, that'd be great. Just give me an idea of what you're grateful for. I wanted to share with my audience some things that I'm grateful for this year. Blessings in my life, my family's life. We have so much to be grateful for that we've prospered for in this country. We have our faith, have Christ in our life. I do. If you don't, I would definitely suggest you have Christ in your life. The salvation of God through His Son Jesus Christ, greatest blessing of all. I'm grateful for that first and foremost because nothing else really matters. I don't care about Trump's tax plan if I don't have Christ. I don't care about Trump's deregulation of something big if I don't have Christ. So on and so forth. Christ, everything else. And that's what it should be. So grateful for that. Grateful for God's plan of salvation. Guys, I'm thankful for my family, thankful for my daughter that's on here this very minute. Thankful for my son-in-law, Dakota. I'm thankful for my granddaughter, Paisley, way out there. All three of them way out there in El Paso, Texas. I'm grateful for my wife, Christy. My two boys, Cooper and Dutch. My oldest son, Cooper, going into the Air Force Reserves in a few months. How proud, I could not be prouder. I'm grateful for my youngest daughter, Kinsey. Be seeing her soon, shortly. Blessed to have a good job, blessed to have my health, blessed to have the family that I have, the friends that I have. One of my best friends, Dave Deagle. Miss him on this show. Truly inspirational, intricate part of this show. Didn't think I could do it without him. But appreciate his friendship, appreciate his family, appreciate his leadership. Our church here at 700 Allison Avenue, grateful. Thankful to live in this great country, the abundance that God provides us here, the ability to gather and worship without fear of prosecution. Just so grateful, guys. Yeah, Lauren, thank you. I'm grateful for you too, my friend. And there's my wife on there. Hi. I'm not used to seeing her on here, so welcome. I'm grateful for you. I'm just thankful for this. I'm thankful for everything that's been given to not only myself, my family, the spiritual blessings from God. I'm thankful for this time of year, time to get together with family, time together and fellowship with other Christians. It's amazing. It's a time of year to be reflective and thankful, but I kind of want to counter that, guys, because it shouldn't be a certain time of year that we're thankful. It shouldn't be when the snow's falling and it's just nice and cozy in the house and there's a fire going and you've got a paycheck in the bank or gas in the car or clothes on your back. That's a 365-day a year type blessing. Be grateful every single day. If you don't know Christ, get to know Christ. Chat me. I can direct you. My best friend, my brother in Christ, Dave Deagle, can help you get to Christ. I mean, that's the main blessings, guys, and to be grateful every single day for God's blessings and abundance and favor in your life. Be grateful for the families you have, guys. Be grateful for everything. My daughter there definitely says, definitely thankful for a good heart, thankful for my mother, my brothers, my sister, my dad, and my stepmother, my husband, and some other stuff there. My daughter, so thankful for being in this free country. Great point, Cheyenne, great point. Well noted. Anybody else that's chimed in here, we're just, and you know what else I'm thankful for? I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for the audience I have here. I'm grateful to be able to sit and do this show every week, to bring truth and relevance to political views, to invoke my conservative values, to also bring up and discuss Christ when it's when the opportunity arises. I'm thankful for you guys for the last number of months, being on here and giving me insight, giving me topics, thinking of things to consider. We're just so grateful, guys. So before we sign off here, I wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas. I hope you have time to get with your family. I hope if you travel that you have safe travels. I hope you get to your destination safely and on time. I hope that your family's safe and well this holiday season. But I also hope that you reflect all of your gratitude back to God, because that's where it belongs. Be grateful for who really gave it. Be grateful for who is really responsible. And be grateful for not who you are, for not only who you are, but whose you are. And be thankful for Christ and His plan of salvation for your soul, because at the end of the day, guys, we are eternal beings. Our souls will spend an eternity somewhere, and that choice is up to you. And rest assured, politics aside, finances aside, worldly things aside, ultimately these things will come to pass. So, from my family to yours, God bless. Merry Christmas to each of you. I hope to see you back next week. Our New Year's, basically our New Year's show, New Year's Eve show, basically. You got any topics, email me, truthhourradio@gmail.com. Dave was always good about plugging here, and I'm horrible with it. It's already skipped me. So we will be signing out here in just a few seconds. And maybe not quite yet. So I'm going to keep going for a couple more minutes. And I just hope that I hope you reflect on what truly matters in your life, and what should truly matter in your life is the blessings that you have every day. So we're grateful for you. We're thankful for everything that y'all have done on here, giving us an audience to speak to. So with that said, the Truth Hour will be back next Thursday, 11 o'clock. Be here. Love you.
Something really wrong is going on. What kind of a show you guys put on?